A few stories that are easy to verify. Just gotta ask people that I'm telling the story about. Not fucking complicated. Of course, now that people are pissed off that they're on the internet for being fucking stupid shits, what motivation do they have to show the truth or tell the truth? Which is why I record it and I post it. If they want to run around saying anything other than what they told me, then why did they lie? First of all, did they lie to me or did they lie to others? When it comes to bees, my dad up in Washington State, I worked for a local beekeeper. Lived right in our neighborhood. I got paid in honey. I love honey. Now, later on, when Natalie Bollinger came into my life and became my friend, I'd known who she was since she was about 13 and started hanging out. She was selling drugs for her dad. I didn't know she was selling drugs for her dad. I knew she was hanging out with the druggies. When she came into my life, she wanted to get me a job canvassing for saving the bees. I'm totally down. I mean, working for a beekeeper, getting to mess around with the bees, put on his suit, mess with the special tape. It's a special type of gaffy tape. If you know what that is, then you've worked on set design or you've set up sound stages for concerts or for political congregations of whatever sort, or you've helped to set up a stage for a major church that's doing a big outdoor revival. It's gaffing tape. It's kind of like duct tape, but it's a better quality of cloth and it doesn't stick as much, which means you can remove it. It's not going to tear your clothing. Now, when she was trying to do that, that was after I fucked up my back, and I was totally down. I mean, I did what I could to try to do that. Couldn't do it while I had my backpack, though. I had to be just on foot, or I couldn't travel. I was stuck on that block with Starbucks. So I wasn't able to get the job, but I did try to get it, and I'm totally down with working with bees. The problem is when you've got local species that are invasive, like here we've got 3 different species that are really invasive, and one of them's not a botfly, but it's a mock bumblebee, and it doesn't sting you, it bites you like a motherfucker. It's not local to the area. It doesn't really become something that really wants to stick around, but the bees down at the bushes down there, those are an invasive species. Not all bees are bumblebees. Not all bees are honeybees. Some bees actually cultivate. They cultivate moisture and stuff that'll rot, and they cultivate molds and mildews. And I've been told not very many of them do that, but that the one that's down in them bushes, and I haven't been able to find a dead one to actually properly identify it. So, as far as checking to see if that's actually true, I haven't been able to. Now, the local species, they all produce honey. There's just not very many. There never really was in this area. A lot of the European bees that we brought over, and a lot of bees from China that we brought over, they took over local populations, and we have populations of bees that we didn't know were extinct because we didn't know they existed until we found them. People are trying to identify them from bees that they found in the walls of houses from like the 1920s and earlier that they are working on it, and somebody goes, well, what kind of bee is that? That's not familiar to me. And they look it up, and there's no such thing. How old is this? When was this wall put up? We got to date these boards. Oh, it was built in 1926 or 1938 or whenever it is. Yeah. We're still finding new species today that have existed for a long while that we just, sure, there's probably thousands of people that saw them. They didn't bother to document them, you know? Like, let's say you're in the Philippines. We we may think, hey, you know, people in the Philippines ought to do the same thing we are. They ought to have a naturalist society that's paid for by the Royal Society, and their job is to ride around on all the boats from East India Trading Company to the Royal Navy to merchant vessels of every sort. And these people's job is to document animals all over the world and to take it to the Royal Society and even present specimens that survive the trip to the Queen or the King, you know? When you're talking about a tribal society in the Amazon or over in the Philippines, they may not even have any sort of writing until Europe come and give them their writing. When they see a bee, it's just, they've grown up with it. It's always been there. Here in the United States, we brought in so many invasive species, it's difficult to tell what should be here and what shouldn't. It's also difficult to tell what is here and what's not. A lot of the bee species, especially the ones around here, they can't sting you. They're not capable. They don't actually have a stinger. You have to be able to tell the males from the females, and one of them's got a stinger, but most of them don't. So if they land on you, or are flying at you, it's not a problem. I've had bees land on me, 5 or 6 of them, and people are like, "Oh my God, you're not scared? You're not scared?" Well, I knew it landed on me. Not a problem. And that was also while it was real fresh in my mind. See, Miss Jerry Sparks, she's really into insects, and she's the one that was telling me about that. So when they were landing on me and I was looking at them, and I remembered the beekeeper I worked for in Washington State telling me that too with his bees. They can't actually sting you, so it's okay. There's like less than 10% of the bee population in that particular nest is able to, and they're not going to leave the nest, most of them. Different species have different rituals. By ritual, you guys, you know, you think pagan rituals and taking the skull and raising it to the sky for a ball, and like, no, it's rituals. Like some of the ones in the colony will stay in there and they'll just go around and seal things up. That's all they do, go around and seal things up. There's other ones that their ritual, they go through their whole life taking out the embryos and putting them somewhere else. Some of the bees, they'll actually move their embryos 3 or 4 times. We don't even know why they move them, but they'll move them 3 or 4 times before they're finished with their gestation. Most of them, we've got something called royal jelly, which is it's not honey. It's produced specifically for the queen who lays millions of eggs. Now we look at ants, right? And we think to ourselves, oh, all ants are omnivorous. You know, ants, they go and they find the insect and they tear it apart and they'll eat its innards and its outards and all of that. But we also know that there's ants that are vegetarians. If they kill something, they plan on having mold grow on it. We know that some ants have extremely mean stingers. We know that when it comes to the animal kingdom, size is not necessarily a determining factor in how much pain it can produce within your body. You ever been bit by a fire ant? Me neither. But I've been bit by ants that hurt for days and days. And they weren't fire ants, they were just red ants. When it comes to bees, there's different types of bees. I've known people who have been stung by bees and then they got stung by another kind of bee and magically they were all of a sudden allergic to bees. So then you got all these folks that are allergic to bees. They might not be allergic to all bees, it might just be a few species, but when they're moving, you can't exactly make them stop so you can identify them. Some of them around here, like those ones that are I think that one back there is supposed to be a mock species, but I'm not sure. If it's the ones that bite, they bite a hole in you. Like they bite a chunk of skin actually out of you. It's not like they pinch you and let go. No, it's an eating mouth part. It bites a hole out of your skin. Doesn't puncture two holes in like a snake would. This clamps and pulls it out. If it's one of those, I don't want them near me. And the thing is that, well, yeah, they're flying right at me. So they're aggressive. They're far more aggressive than the local bees. The local bees, they might come investigate you, but like for the most part, you're bigger than they are. They could potentially be a prey animal and they can't sting you. So, I mean, what purpose do they have in coming over to you? Maybe if you got some pretty flowers. But I'm not familiar with every single type of bee out there. When I got into animals and got into horticulture, there's a lot of stuff I was really into. Bees ain't one of them. When I was up there in Washington State working for that beekeeper, that's what got me interested in bees. And yes, I learned as much as I could from that guy about his one species and some general knowledge about bees and him telling me about, that when you're, let's say you've got a cat, right? And most people don't have an ocelot. So, of course, you're helping somebody who's got an ocelot, and you're their pet sitter for their ocelot. But, even though they tell you about how specific an ocelot is and how it needs to be traded and trained and all that, they might tell you a little bit about other cats. They might be telling you the difference. Oh, this kind of cat is taller, this one's shorter, this one weighs about the same, but, you'll learn a little bit about other things. Like when somebody's totally into ants and they have an ant farm, yeah, they have one specific type of ants, but they might be interested in a lot of different ones. And when they share that information, if you're really interested in it, you'll retain it. That's the problem with people getting bored. If they don't see it, they don't retain it. That's the problem with people not looking at the evidence. And with me not having the ability to keep on running around, spending all of these resources that I don't have to try to get someone to actually look at it who's more than just bored. It's boring because you're not looking at the evidence. You claim that you'll look at it. I send it to you as much as I can with my limited abilities, with 10,000 other things I got to jump through, and I'm having to do all this stuff by myself. I got to say, I'll say this probably a few more times, I am thankful for the people at the Seventh-day Adventist. When I let them know what was going on, they didn't redirect me to other things. They didn't redirect me, well, they did redirect me to other places, but they helped me themselves. They told me that this is what these other services are for. These other services are supposed to do this or they're supposed to do that. Well, I need someone to go in with me. If this is what they're supposed to do and I go in there alone and they tell me that's not what they're supposed to do, it becomes an argument and it goes up on YouTube. To be intimidated by police officers in Hood River and the Dalles the way that I was, to be slandered repeatedly by those folks in Hood River and the Dalles who wore badges, to be lied to repeatedly by those people and sent around in a fucking circle again. When you try to turn in bad cops, That's what you get. Every law enforcement officer is going to cover up for the wrongdoing of other law enforcement officers, and their dispatch will do the same. You're told you have to go to their supervisors, and what happens when you go to their supervisor? You get bullied by their supervisor. It's a good thing I recorded that shit, isn't it? But it only makes a difference if you try to make a difference. When it comes to saving the bees, I was totally down with that. I was totally down with canvassing. You know, I'd canvassed to try to get marijuana legal in the state of Colorado. Amendment 64, yeah, there was a whole bunch of us. We'd go out and we'd canvass block by block. And the guy with the clipboard would be at the end of the block. And when we got somebody who wanted to, well, try to get marijuana legal, recreational and medical, so that anybody 21 years of age or older could go purchase it, and it would be not only decriminalized but actually legal. Of course, that didn't matter. They still used the marijuana, anti-marijuana crap to arrest homeless people. They made it illegal for everybody except for those without a house. If you have a house, it's legal. If you don't have a house, it's still illegal. You're allowed to be an alcoholic in your own house. You're not allowed to be an alcoholic if you're homeless. It's illegal. You're drunk in public. You're allowed to go to the bathroom in a house. It's in a house. But you go to the bathroom outside because they want to prevent hobos from using bathrooms. Well, where are we going to pee? That's right, on the side of your fucking building. There's a bathroom half a block away. It's a public restroom. We shut it off from 10 p.m. to 6 o'clock a.m. or even 8 a.m. It's a public restroom. You got it shut down because some of those people abuse the restroom. And it's usually high school kids, just so you know. And that's not to say homeless people don't abuse it too, because they do. I know. Lots of people abuse those privileges. So you take them away from everybody. And then you pretend that everybody still has access to them. We got a lot of business owners that complain about homeless people pissing on the side of their building. First of all, it's not just homeless people that have to pee after 10 p.m. You've got the bar crowd that still has to pee after 10 p.m. When they have left the bar and they're on their way to the car, especially when it's cold out, your skin starts to get cold too, and it starts to constrict your blood vessels, and it makes you need to pee because your body says, hey, we need to make some room. So what do? You go pee. Whether you're a college student, some drunk guy who just got kicked out of his house because his wife has found another man, or because his leg hasn't been able to get a job for 6 months after his cast came off because it's that atrophied. He's not a real man anymore, blah, blah, blah. He's got to pee too. But you blame it all on the homeless. It's the homeless who are peeing on the buildings. It's the homeless' fault. We need to get rid of all of the homeless people. Guess what? If you got rid of all of the homeless people in America, all of them today, if you marched them all into the sea and drowned every single one of the homeless people, by the end of the day, there would still be more people victimized into homelessness. By the end of the day, you would again have more homeless people. You got to have a victim class. If you got rid of all of the homeless people today, people would stop caring what the law says about going after black people and Hispanic people and immigrants. They'd go right back to taking it out on Jews. Right back to taking it out on natives. As it stands now, they have a victim class. Everyone in America, Native American, black, white, Republican, Democrat, liberal, everybody has a class of people that they can take it out on, and they're called the homeless. Just like bees, we're not all the same. Yes, some homeless people are very dangerous, but when we have a trauma reaction to those dangerous people, you treat us like we are those people. You get to see how many people I text nicely and talked to nicely and tried nicely to explain it to them. And the words that were coming out of my mouth went in one ear and right out the other. Well, you know, if they'd take the time to look at fucking evidence, they'd retain some of that fucking information. When they say they'll look at it if I go there in person, and I go there in person and they don't look, is that my fault? Is that my choice? Did I want that? Obviously, I'm in my car. Starbucks was closed. I make sure that I pack up a little bit early so that I'm not packing up after they're already closed up. I try to be courteous. I go out of my way to be courteous. You know, a lot of people, right after they mop the floor, I know they're going to say it's okay. It's okay. Well, it's still fucking rude. I know lots of people in the janitorial industry that have mopped the floor, told somebody it's okay right in front of me, and then bitched about that person walking over it for the whole fucking ride home. I don't like bees. I don't like getting stung. It don't feel good. But I don't generally get stung. If I'm familiar with a species, there's probably not much of an issue because I know how to handle it. If it's an aggressive species, like getting up in your face, you back off and it's still pursuing you, well, that's just stupid of the animal to do that. But it also lets you know that it might possibly be carnivorous, which means it's not a honey eater. You know that most wasps and hornets are carnivorous. They're meat eaters. It's also a lot easier to tell a wasp and a hornet from a bee. Sometimes it's difficult to tell a wasp and a hornet from one another, especially when they're moving. But you know right away it's not a bee, even if it's moving. They're nasty and they're scary. There are species that don't produce honey that are essential. They're essential for the ecology, for the ecosystem. They're essential for the proper maintenance of quite a bit of stuff. There's a type of burrowing mud wasp that is responsible for aeration in a lot of places where the earth is just too compacted for earthworms to do their thing. It's too dry for earthworms to do their thing. The mud wasps have to go collect the water and then bring it to make the mud holes that they're digging. And those mud holes, well, some of them can be, I want to say, 6 to 16 inches long. That's a pretty decent sized tunnel. Now, this is all stuff I'm trying to recall from memory. Obviously, if I had a computer here, a lot of times if I'm talking on my phone and I got a computer there, I'll be looking up what I'm talking about. I want to make sure that I get the information correct. If I don't have the ability to do that, especially when it is as incredibly complicated as mine is. And you're expecting me to get everything right, and I'm supposed to remember every single date that every single thing happened to me. Meanwhile, I needed to turn it in on that date. I needed to be able to turn it in when it happened. But as a homeless and disabled male, I have to be afraid of going to the police. Afraid of them. Afraid of getting blown off. Especially after the slander that I am still abused over. I try to get people to look in person. No, I trust you. I trust you. No, don't trust me. I don't want you to believe. I want you to know. I want you to be able to stand firm, knowing 100% that you are making the right decision in supporting me, in protecting my rights as a human being. I want you to see with your own two eyes how much of a difference it will make. If you stand by my side, it will protect your rights. If you help me to get this to court, to make it so there are actual teeth to protect human beings who are disabled, actually have teeth to the laws. So mandated reporters cannot pull all of these sleight of hand, as Marcia Estrada calls it, so that they have to do their jobs, or those consequences will be paid by those people. If it is illegal for the mandated reporters not to report it, and they don't report it, and it says that they're supposed to spend 6 months in jail and pay a $2,000 fine and crickets instead, it's still illegal, but there's no teeth. Who's going to implement the actual changes that it takes to get these people to do their jobs, to make it illegal for them to not do their jobs? It's already illegal for them to not do their jobs, for them to neglect an at-risk fucking adult. This is not okay. For them to argue over whether or not I am at risk without hearing what I am saying, going out of their way to talk over me and pretend. Well, then I got to turn them in. And when I try to turn them in, then magically, I'm not any of those things that they were claiming as their excuse. Am I? Magically, I must be schizophrenic and delusional, mustn't I? They didn't want to do their jobs. Now they're abusing their positions to hide the fact that they didn't do their jobs. Those of you who are cowards, I didn't make you cowards. Those of you who wanted to allow these people to repeatedly victimize me, and I had to do something desperate to get attention drawn to the actual situation instead of this fucking fictional bullshit. I'm being abused over fiction, you fucking cunts. And you guys want me to be normal? You are fucking insane. Anyway, I'm totally down with saving the bees. If I can identify the bee and I know that it doesn't have a stinger, no problem. Anything that comes at you, even while you're trying to get away from it, is not fucking cool, though. Like Molly. Or like Natalie Bollinger and her fucking junkie friends. Or the fucking web sleuths. But it's all fine. If you refuse to take a look, you don't understand the magnitude of the fucking situation, you don't see how much hell it is for me, or how impossible it is for me to jump through these goddamn hoops after what you've done to me. After the resources and the time that you've wasted. pretending to give a shit, pretending like you want to help, pretending like you care. God bless America, right? No. No. As a matter of morality, if Russia launches nukes to the United States, I fully support that decision. Yes, I'm against killing people. Absolutely. But here's the thing, if we're just going to run around torturing each other and victimizing the most easy to victimize people in our society and making every excuse why it's okay, while law enforcement pretend like disabled people aren't disabled so they don't have to do their job, and then they pretend that those people are disabled in a way that they're not, so that they can try to justify making zero goddamn attempt to do their fucking job. When I was paid to go door to door to talk to people about marijuana, I did the fucking job I was paid to do. I didn't fucking procrastinate. I went to fucking work. When I worked at Stone Lighting, I didn't fucking procrastinate. I was at work and on fucking time. I went to my fucking job and I fulfilled the duties of that job. I fulfilled the obligations of that job. Unlike the people that you guys and myself are paying. We're paying them to victimize people, to not do their job, to make excuses, to be predatory. Ronald Reagan did every American a disservice when he threw the crazies out on the streets. Because then you guys assume we're all crazies. And you victimize all of us, while we're also being victimized. And while we're also scared of those very same people, but you pretend all of us are those people. When a hobo tries to turn in a cop, standard fucking procedure. We already know the cop is going to pretend that you're schizophrenic and on drugs. They are going to slander your name. That is going to happen. That is procedure nationwide when you try to turn it in alone. And while they're refusing to do their jobs, you just have to take it. Or they're going to fucking play victim. I need to be in a place where I am safe from law enforcement before I can do a goddamn thing for myself. Our number one predators are not the other homeless. It's not even the general public. Our number one predators, the people who do the most harmful things to us, are always law enforcement. What law enforcement does to us prevents us from having the resources to get up and out. What law enforcement does to us is make us start over from nothing, over and over and over again. American law and justice should never be about popularity. Ever. It should never be about preventing a victim from showing evidence. It should never be your word versus mine when there is actual evidence. And we should not be paying public pretenders because they're not going to do their jobs. If they don't win, they don't get paid. That's how it should be. If they don't do their job to defend their client, they should not get paid. They will not requisition evidence, if they will not go to court, if they will not listen to their fucking client, and they want to threaten, harass, and intimidate that client themselves, what recourse do we have when all they got to do is call us mentally ill and our voices go unheard? I needed help getting my voice heard by the courts, getting my evidence shown to the courts. The evidence that I have suggests that nobody in the United States of America is a good person other than me. When people ask for my help, I understand we need to help now, not 6 fucking years from now. If a little girl comes to me and says that she's being raped at home, and I tell her, oh, well, I'm too busy right now, I'll help you in like 3 days, and then in 3 days I just ghost her, never try turning it in, never try speaking up, never try looking into it. Then 6 months down the road, she gets a hold of me and says, hey, Sean. Now, obviously, this is a fiction for you, so that you can understand the gender bullshit and how it really is. She says, hey, Sean, you were going to help me. My dad is still raping me. I am stuck at his house. I can't defend myself. He is too big. I tried going to the cops. I got sent to a fucking nuthatch. They put drugs in me. I tried to get you to listen. When you didn't listen, I had to fucking cut on myself, hoping that somebody would listen, Sean. Sean, why didn't you fucking speak up? I came to you for help. Now I'm being treated by the courts because I tried to turn in my dad for raping me. He's calling me mentally ill. They're using the fact that I cut myself to call me mentally ill and pretend that I'm crazy. I wouldn't have had to fucking cut on myself if you had fucking helped me, Sean. And then what do I do? Oh, well, I've had my own stuff going on. Why are you being selfish? I never promised to go in with you. I never promised. I never said I promise. Even the ones that you got recorded promising. And then they want to be angry because you recorded it. You recorded the fact that you did try to get help. And you're being railroaded in the courts because they're not allowing you any of your rights. They're claiming you didn't try to get help. The people wouldn't help you probably because of the way that you act. Meanwhile, you went to your friends how many times? How many times does that little girl have to come to me and say, I'm still being raped by my fucking dad, dude? Please fucking speak up, you fucking piece of shit. You fucking coward. You can't even admit I came to you for help, Sean. And then, of course, for 6 months, she disappears. You know, I tell her I care about her and I do want to help her out. I do want to help her out. And then she disappears for 6 months. She gets back a hold of me and says, Sean, I've been fucking locked up for 6 months. Locked up for 6 months because you didn't fucking speak up. You never spoke up. You just let them do it to me, Sean. You just let them do it to me. Why don't you fucking speak up, Sean? Sean, I came to you for help because my dad was raping me. And you told me you were going to help. But instead, My dad gets to run around and tell everybody that I'm schizophrenic and delusional. Sean, am I schizophrenic? No, you don't exhibit any signs of schizophrenia. You do get overwhelmed, I'll admit that. Well, will you fucking speak up, Sean? Will you speak up, Sean? We have a very limited amount of time. There's body cameras on these officers who are fucking harming me because I tried to turn in my dad. There is body cameras. I need help getting those body cameras. All of this shit has taken away all of my ability to do these things for myself. I am scared, Sean. I am scared to talk to the cops by myself because they'll treat me like I'm fucking schizophrenic. Moral of the story, you're all fucking cowards. You know why the Nazis got away with doing what they did? Look at my channel, it's called Repeat. You want to know what Germany was like in the 1920s and 1930s? You're looking at it. You're looking at it. Good to be with you. Thanks for coming to visit. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper and no victim left behind. By the way, right now we're experiencing the shit that was towards the middle of World War II for the Germans. We're not facing mass starvation yet. Who did the Germans go after first? Was it blacks? Was it Jews? No, it was the homeless and the disabled.